touch us in. I think he's just about ready to give me that look, that come hither look. Norman, now's your time to be somebody. Hunchers, munchers, late for lunchers, panties in a bunchers. Glad to have you with us. Hey, I'm the Manful Handful, and I want to get with all of y'all. I can't stand myself no more. I can't stand myself no more. I like to get up off the floor. Can we say a little more? Can we say a little more? But I can't stand myself no more. I wasn't good when times was good. I wasn't good when times was good. Ran all over the neighborhood, doing things I not a should. I like to even up the score, but I can't stand myself no more. I'd like to even up the score, but I can't stand myself anymore. How you doing? I can't stand myself no longer. Man, we're glad to be with all of y'all. Bunch of nice folks, a lot of East Siders, a lot of Pittsburghers. You know, I was given the name the Pittsburgher because I stole a living in this goddamn town. Nobody wanted me to make a living here. It wasn't carved out for me. You know what I had to do? I had to chisel through stone. Gig after stinking rotten gig after stinking rotten gig. Here's me up there, jumping around real happy like a little monkey. Smiling at all my people. And through this pain, this anguish, what'd I find? Myself. Me! The Manful Handful. I'm here with my lovely assistant, Tom, at the East Side Sound Studio. This is our fourth effort at entertaining in such a stark and lonely way. It's just us, and we are together. I'm looking deep into your eyes right now, and you're getting very sleepy. Hey, we've got some fun stuff we're going to do today. One of the things I want to do is I want to talk about dressing rooms I've been thrown out of. I don't know, I'm sure there's some other rock and rollers that would like to tell you about the dressing rooms they've been thrown out of. And another thing I'd like to do today is I'd like to talk about crazy stuff that happens at gigs. And just goofiness. That I was thinking of something earlier and I just forgot what that was. But let me play a couple songs and then we'll do a little, what I like to call conversating. Sometimes they use the word conversating on Jerry Springer. And I don't know how often you guys watch Jerry Springer. But let me just say this. Since we've been in this shutdown mode, well, 3 o'clock, channel Dewey, Jerry Springer, me and the old lady, we meet in the living room. And the trashiness deep inside each one of us seems to find friendship. And we never feel alone when we're watching Jerry Springer because it's like us up there, right on the screen, telling the story of our sorry lives. Springer. Jerry. How about on Jerry Springer? Does anybody remember the Kung Fu hillbilly? He's from West Virginia, and he just does karate moves and stuff. and talks about chopping up on some great karate stuff. Hey, let's do a song. I think I wrote this about a year ago, and I'm still writing it because I've just been working on the words, and let's just make some noise with it. And it send it out to all the wonderful ladies of the world. You know, Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias. They said, they looked in each other's eyes and they said, to all the girls I've loved before, who'd have traveled in and out of my door. I like to say it with a broken English, like my grandpa Barney would have said, because he had an eye for the ladies. He'd look them up and down. He'd undress them with his blue eyes, like bluish green eyes. My grandpa had them. And you know what's crazy? Now, my cousin Dookie, Larry Nardini's first brother, underneath Larry, Dookie, he has those same eyes that Grandpa Bernie had. Beautiful. How you doing? She had men, plenty of them. Things never seemed to work out. Took on a woman one time back in college where she was living wild. Might have had a threesome or two. Now all she wants to hear is the blues. Well, she had money, lots of it when she made up with that man. He had a woman that he kept on the side, that him and that bitch just up and ran, took all that money with him too. Now all she wants to hear is the blues. Well, get a bending and moaning and back of the boning takes the pain away. Get a throw and a show and a saxophone blow and put a big smile on her face. She found religion for a minute, then she found something else. Come in a bottle, pour out a glass, and it ain't no goddamn good for your health. After she's had a few, all she wants to hear is the blues. Here come the last verse. See if you like it. She had a daughter, looked just like her. You should see that girl dance. She get out on the floor, ain't one of them young fellas even stands a chance. She put on them dancing shoes, and all she wants to hear is the blues. Hear the swinging and singing and guitars ringing, gets her to feeling alright. Well, the timing of the rhyming is so sublime, they keep her on the floor all night. And all she wants to hear, just like her mother dear, all she wants to hear is the blues. Hear the blues. Now, there's a number for you. Love that stuff. All those straight rock beats. You know how many great songs with them straight type beats have been written over the years? Your old Stones. Back to your honky tonk women. Another one them Southern boys did. Keep them in the hands of yourself. Right? You know, that was good stuff. Love that. Tom liked that. He liked that record a lot. Well, who didn't like that record? In fact, that whole album was The Faces, you know, those kinds of bands, rock and roll bands. You know what I mean? That's what that rock and roll music. That's the difference. Then you got then they brought in these bands like Styx. Lady from the Moon. I always wanted to smack that guy. I didn't want to. I just wanted to like backhand him, just like. Would you quit belly moaning about lady? Go out and get yourself a little. You ain't have to moan about her. She wasn't no goddamn good anyway. Hey, I don't know what you guys been doing since the lockdown. Probably a lot of folks are amusing themselves by, well, abusing themselves. Shouldn't have said that. Standing on a stage with some MFers out there. You know, they ain't even looking at you half the time. They're eating. They're talking to one another. They're lying to one another. Talking about how good things, how bad things been, or how good things been. But they're lying. And they ain't even looking at you. But from my position, you know they're in the room. And you feel them before you even look them in the eye. You go, they're here. They must be here for a reason. They must be here because they're looking for something. And what if what they're looking for just happens to be all this? Well, if that's the case, then they're in for a good one, because that's what I'm all about. Is sneaking up on them. Getting inside their craniums. Breaking them down! Start them off with a little laughter. You get a little physical movement, and then now you catch your eyes. You got them. They're watching you. And you see the I got them. Then you see the rub. Then you look down and see if their foot's tapping. See if their hand's tapping on the bar, their elbow moving. Now these are the things, the signs you're looking for. And that's what's missing when we're doing these things that we're doing here today. I'm talking to my lovely, lovely assistant, Tom. But in his face, I see the faces of all of y'all. Those of you that happen to be great looking. Those of you that are so like, yeah. Those of you that are just tremendous. And those of you that are, well, as I said to my buddy Rap, look what the cat drug in. But I love him, clothes on, clothes off. We'll talk about that at another time. Hey, I'd like to do a song, send us out to my friend Cindy. She always said she loved this song, and I think she fell in love with it when she heard my friend Whitey Clyde Cooper wrap his lips around this melody and these words, and Whitey took it to this super romantic place that was just, can I use the word, delicious? I just did. I don't sing this one much. I've hardly ever sung it in public. But that don't mean I'm not going to enjoy it. Send it out to Cindy, wherever she may be. There's a road that winds through the country, and there's a river beside that road. There the trees grow tall, and when there's no wind at all, you could hear the grass grow. And there's a mountain by the bend in that river, and on that mountain there sits a small town. There autumn glows gold, winter unfolds in the springtime, summer sun shining down on a town with no name. The welcome all who came, so they came from the world around. Rich man and poor man, they all live the same in this town with no name. Way up there in the mountain air, when a gentle wind rolls through the pines, you could still feel the heat from the cobblestone street as you reach out and touch cloud in the sky. Now there's a star that shines in the heavens, that lights up the road to this town. If you follow that star from wherever you are, you'll be homeward bound to the town with no name that welcomed all who came. So they came from the world around. Rich men and poor men, they all live the same in this town, town with no name. In this town, town with no name. Town with no name. How you doing? That number there was played to a lovely 3/4 time beat, waltz beat, the most romantic tempo of all. 4/4, you know, everything's in 4/4. But when you go 3/4, you're going like tight pants, square-toed shoes, powdered wigs, silken shirts with a lot of ruffles, and you're walking up to the ladies and bowing. And when the ladies see you when you're playing 3/4 time, you know what they do? They come up to the end of the stage and they go like this. They curtsy! Whatever happened to the goddamn curtsy? When I was a kid, you know, girls would curtsy. Just that word itself, curtsy, right? I love that. When you're a boy, curtsy, it's like, almost like, yeah. You kidding me? Seeing a pretty little girl curtsying, and then you're thinking, well, she's curtsying just for me. I must be special. Hey, one thing we want to do today is we want to thank you for getting with us. Now, my lovely assistant Tom, he had a little trouble getting his makeup on today, and getting into his dress was rough, but we got him all set up, and he's looking like $500,000. Oh, there he goes. Beach blanket, baby. He's over there giving me that big smile. Hey, we want to thank you for tuning in with us and hopefully giving us a chance to entertain you. And I've got to tell you this. I've been watching, well, let's not say watching. Let me say what I say to my old lady when she's looking out the door and seeing the neighbors. Snooping. I've been snoop dogging on other people that are doing live stream things, just to see what up. What do you got in your shorts? What's people bringing? And I've come to notice this, Tom. What we're doing is a little freakish, and I haven't seen anyone approaching these entertainment situations the same way we are, and that's good news. That means that we are still black, dark sheep, cast away from the others. We approach it just a little bit differently. We come in real smiles, real nice, and we take our hand down low and then reach it around and grab a handful of ass cake. And you're either like, oh, hello, doll, or you're like, get out of here. One way or the other, we're just a little, can I use the word, different. Okay. Let's talk about some stuff. I always ask the question on gigs, is there anybody out there who has a mother or father or brother or sister, or you yourself, children, that played in a rock band? And almost somebody throws up a hand. But when I say rock band, I also mean polka band. A reggae band. Just a band that got out and, threw the shit in a truck, drove to the gig, set it up, and pounced around a little bit up there for some strangers. And because doing it is there's a commonality to all the people that do it. I don't get along with a lot of them, but that's strictly because I don't want to get along with a lot of them. I'm a cantankerous. I don't think there's such a word as cantankerous. I think it's cantankerous. Tom?
Yes.
Cantankerous. C-A, not C-O-M. Okay, I'm a cantankerous old prick. And I don't want to get along with everybody. I want to entertain everybody. But I don't want to get along so much with the other entertainers as to where we're like commiserating, walking down the street and taking our dogs for walks together. My dog don't want to walk with your dog. And I don't care what your dog is. Your dog might be the prettiest dog, and my dog don't want to walk with your dog. I assume the personality of my dog. Crazy Mexican bitch. Chihuahua. She don't like nobody, and when I saw her doing that when I first met her, I thought, she don't like nobody. And then I started thinking, she's like me. I like that song because she's crazy as can be. She's the same kind of crazy as me. But anyway, okay, gigging is phenomenal. And I was thinking about this the other day. In I believe it was 69 or 70, and it was at the time where we recently have relived it. I believe it was the 40th anniversary of or 50th anniversary of the Kent State shootings. I don't know, so I don't know what year that was. Tom, do you remember?
1970.
1970, 69, 70? Well, at the time that was going on, I was playing with McKeag, Frank Zori, Robbie, the Beat Man Johns, and I believe Gary Gento. And we were playing at a date in Canton, Ohio. And at the very same time, there were like people hiding up on the turnpike shooting at the truckers that were driving by. I think it was because of trucker strikes and stuff. So there were state cops that were coming to this bowling alley we were playing in Canton, Ohio. And then in the middle of it, like we were there for 2 weeks or whatever, and then in the middle of it, the Kent State shootings happened. So the cops were already all around for the truckers' problems, and then that terrible tragedy happened. And so I remember that about this gig. But the thing I remember most about this gig, and I mentioned it to McKeag the other day. McKeag said the thing he remembers about it, that there was a chick that every night that we played there, she'd come up to the stage, she said, "Play Happy Birthday, it's my birthday." First night we were there, she did it. She came back the next night. "Play Happy Birthday, it's my birthday." McKeag says, "Well, we played it for you last night." I said, "Hey, play Happy Birthday, it's my birthday." So every night when she was there, we played Happy Birthday for her because in her mind it was her birthday. But the remarkable thing I remember is that after the gig, and like when you're young, you can do this. After the gig, if you're not going to a crazy party situation and doing countless things you shouldn't be doing, what we used to do, we'd go to a diner. There used to be all these diners. In Pittsburgh, you would go to Critters. Remember Critters? Critters on Saturday night? Cross-dressers. He-she's. Musicians. Freaks. Jazzbos. All the weirdos. Writers, they'd be here writing stories, and they'd all hang out at Critters. But anyway, at this gig in Canton, Ohio, there was a diner. And we went to the diner. Probably about, 4 o'clock in the morning. And when we're in the diner, there's this one guy. And he looks like a bum. And being a young cat and not have been around the world much, I know that I didn't offer this stranger the kind of respect that I know now we should all offer to everybody we meet. But we're eating and being young, and I'm sure probably jerking around. And then this guy, this bum, comes over and starts to talk to us while we're having coffee. And he says to us, he says, "Hey, you guys look like musicians, I mean, it wasn't hard to tell what we were." And he starts talking about music, and he said, he says, "I used to be a musician." We're like, yeah, it's cool, whatever. And then he told us a story that to this day I'll never forget. He told us, I say I'll never forget. I don't remember what his name was, but I remember this. He said that he was playing in a road band, and it was New Year's Eve, and he was coming up with the band to play a show, a New Year's Eve show that night in Canton, Ohio. And I think they were out of Nashville. And he said the lead singer of his band showed up on his own, away from the band. And when he showed up, he was gone. He had OD'd in the back of his limousine. And the leader of his band was Hank Williams. And that he said that he never, ever went home. He said, I never went back. He says, I've been here in this time where Hank Williams died. Since the day he died, which had been like 20 years before that, I've been just living in this town, just trying to get by. And it was so... And at the time, we were discovering Hank Williams. You know, and I discovered all the cool music I knew. I didn't discover. McKeag discovered it and told me about it. Because he was smarter and I was just some dork. But isn't that a killer story? This guy was Hank Williams' steel, like a lap steel. You know, it wasn't a pedal steel. They would tune it to like 6 chords and slide up and down and do those. When you listen to those old Hank records, it's an unmistakable sound. And I know back when I was a kid, I used to try and find how to sound like that without playing with a steel and you know, being tuned to regular guitar tuning. So I studied a lot of that stuff, and how amazing that story is. You know, it's like, here's you starting out a life, early in your life as a loser musician. And then at 4 o'clock in the morning in Canton, Ohio, a totally fantastic loser musician just comes up to you and says, you know what? If everything goes right, you could be just as big a loser as I am. And it was just like an eye-opening thing that, you know, we touched the kind of person that we ended up, that we wanted to be. And that we were well on our way to being, even though we were still in our 20s. Early 20s. Oh, when I was in my early 20s, I was such an a-hole. But that's another. We'll go over some of those situations. How about this? Around the same time, playing with the same guys. I was playing Hammond organ at the time, and I probably played guitar on a couple songs. I wasn't very good at either. But everybody else in the band was high-level cats. Robbie Johns was a great drummer. I think the second best rock and roll drummer we had in town. At that time, you know, Bert Foster was automatically so world-class. Robbie Johns was rubbing up, get him! And we had Gary Gentile, who had amazing musical skills. Plus, he was real handsome. Plus, he sang his Corleones off, okay? Then McKeag and Frank, who were both, to this day, the highest level singers in time. So we got this gig. And I think it was from a friend McKeag's, a kid from Squirrel Hill, Danny Freeman, got us one gig at Miami University. And I think it was 1970. And it was playing at a concert, opening up the show at Miami University for the Chambers Brothers. Time has come today, time has come today, whoa. And they would do, that was their hit. But then they would do, people get ready, there's a train. They would do like Curtis Mayfield tunes and just soulful stuff. When, and this is important, when rock and roll was the language of our culture. This was a time that people my age, born in the 1950s, late 40s, we remember when rock and roll was, just like my parents remember when swing music was the language of our country in the 40s and in the early 1950s. And think about this. In the 1940s, you know, the swing bands like Glenn Miller and all those cats, they were touring the country. But out west, Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys were swinging their own kind of swing. So one way or another, they were swinging. And And then when our generation came, we were rocking, you know. And but we get this gig down in Miami, Florida, and it was great. And it paid like, I don't even know, like you couldn't even say the word $1,000, something like that. But at that time, that was a lot of money, and to us, it was even more. So we get this gig, and at the time, Robbie Johns, the beat man, was still in like 9th grade or something, because he was the youngest of us. I think I was the second youngest, and then Robbie Johns was 2 years younger than me. And we get this gig, and we're like, we got it. Everybody's like, dude, we're going to Florida. Are you kidding me? This is going to be killer. And it was like, well, Beat Man can't go because he's still in high school. It's like, Beat, well, what are you going to do? He says, don't worry about it. And so whenever it came time to leave, Beat Man just got in the truck, and he never went back to school the rest of his life. It was like $1,000 gig in Florida with the Chambers Brothers was that life-changing experience for the Beat Man and for us all. But that was all the motivation Beat Man needed to quit high school was to do this date. And I do remember standing on the side of the stage and watching the Chambers Brothers work after our set, and just enjoying it. And I remember thinking, here's me. I have the same feeling inside me that a 7-year-old kid that lives in the country has when the circus comes to town or when the county fair comes. And he's at the county fair, and it's Saturday night, and he's there with his he's there with his family or friends, and he just thinks he never wants this moment to end. And that's the same. And I was thinking at that, I remember standing there thinking, I'm like that kid at the county fair. I just never want this to stop. This is the pinnacle of my life. How crazy is that, right? But anyway, while we were in Florida, we were driving around a lot looking for alligators and insects. And then we made a destination tribute run to Coconut Grove, Florida. Beautiful little artsy town. And guess what we did there? We went looking for Fred Neil, the amazing 12-string guitar player. Lucy, everybody's talking at him. The guy that wrote Everybody's Talking at Me. We went looking for him. And we thought if we would meet him, maybe he'd let us be his backup band and help us move to Florida. But how crazy! We didn't find Fred Neil, but we found the joint he was working down there, and it was in this little town. It was called Coconut Grove, and it was like an artist community, kind of like Shady Side used to be in Pittsburgh, where there were shops and like places to eat good food, and girls would get dressed up and come and just stand around, and then losers like myself would come around and just like look at the ladies and look at the art and try to blend in and say I'm a part of this part of society. But we never found Fred Neil. I don't know if you guys ever got into Fred, but he had an album called Bleecker and McDougal. Tom knows about Fred Neil. He had an album called Bleecker and McDougal that was just, and then he had another album called Dolphins, I think was the name of it. And I think he was on Vanguard Records, one of them cool like artsy West Coast labels. Amazing stuff. Fred Neil. If you get a chance, look him up. And he also wrote Everybody's Talking at Me, which Nilsson made into this amazing record. And was the theme song. Wasn't that the No, that was it.
Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy. Joe Buck. Remember Joe Buck? He was pimping, Jism. He was pimping, right? Amazing stuff. Okay. Let me tell you about this. A couple years ago, maybe 5, buddy of mine from Jersey calls up, says, hey, I got a gig for you. I says, out there? He says, no, in Pittsburgh. I was like, cool. I says, what is it? He said, it's like down at the event center. One of those, I forget what it was. One of the event centers where they have like a concert room and then they banquet rooms behind it and all that. So I says, what's the whole deal? And he says, well, we're having Neil deGrasse Tyson coming in and to speak. And then after that, right next to him, we're going to have a big banquet room open where Neil's going to come over and shake a few babies and kiss a few hands. And we want you guys to be playing there. And then that's going to be the event. So we were all excited, especially my friend Harry Bottoms, my bass player for the past 30 years. You wouldn't think of it, but Harry's very much into, and he was talking about Carl Sagan. Might want to say that word, Carl Sagan? He was the astrophysicist that taught Neil deGrasse Tyson the basics of all that stuff. So we went down and to do the gig. We watched Neil talk first. We were already set up, sound checked, and we just watched him speak. He's killer. A lot of great bull crap. He's as good a public speaker as he is a thinker. So we watched the show, and then the show's over, and everybody's matriculating around the stage. And then they're trying to shuffle people over to the other room. And so we go back and stand about 25 yards away from where Neil is and the people are. And they're all down there talking, and we're all the way at the other end of this big banquet room, and we start playing, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So we just started playing light and just playing some soulful stuff and kicking it, and we played for about half an hour, 40 minutes. All them people were done at the other room. There's no one near us. Then all of a sudden, I look, and at the other end of the room, coming out of that group of maybe 150 people that were there, is one person carrying a briefcase. And he walks away from all them people, and he starts walking right towards us. And the closer he gets, I'm checking. I said, yeah, just look at this guy. And then I went, oh, my God, that's Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's walking up to where we are all by himself. And he takes his briefcase, sets it down on a table, pulls out like a pad and a pen, and he writes something down on a piece of paper. And he walks over and stands right in front of me, and he holds this thing up. And on it, in a scribbled words, it said, soulful. And I got the biggest smile on my old Dago face. I'm looking over at Harry, and Harry's like, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And then, when all the people saw him down there hanging with us, they all came down and partied with us. And it was beautiful. But you would never think of this guy. I'd like to throw that word around one more time. See how it looks. See how it feels coming out my face. Astrophysicist. Hey, I don't think I could ever handle being one, but I rubbed up against one, and it felt pretty good. And you know what he said about me and mine? Soulful. You're goddamn right he did. That's what he said. Man, I want to tell you something. Back in the 90s, things were scattered. It's hard keeping a band together. I was working in 2 different cities. Had lost all my record deals. I'm just trying to scrape a living up and trying to keep gigging all the time. Gigging constantly always seemed important to me because I always knew the more you gig, the better you play. So it's in the 90s, early 90s, and I get a call from a buddy of mine, Elk, who's an agent at the time, booking shows, and he says, "Hey, I got a date for you." I said, "Whatever, let's do it." He says, "Well, it's a different kind of thing." He said, "It don't pay a lot, and it's down on Liberty Avenue with a gay bar." I said, "Whatever." I said, "I'm cool. I want to work." So at the time, I didn't have regular cats playing with me. So I remember I picked up a drummer from somewhere. I can't remember who played drums, but I had this guy playing bass, and he was from Virginia, and he was younger and pretty green. He hadn't been around the world a lot. He didn't know that gay people is people. He hadn't figured that out yet. He was still under the misconception that gay people were real different, and there's this whole other thing. Well, that ain't true. And well, anyway, it was. So I'm going to this date, and on the date, this kid from Virginia who's younger and green, he's real nervous, and he's wearing me like a suit. He's like right up behind me, and I'm like, dude, and everywhere I'm going, he's right behind me, like almost touching me. And so we finally get everything out of the truck and right in front of the bar. And when we walk into the bar, as soon as we walk in, this guy's right behind me. And the bartender sees me. And as soon as we walk in the door, the bartender goes, Nardini! And he throws his hands up and he says, Nardini! Like that. And this kid from Virginia behind me goes, dude. Like, I think he thought maybe we shouldn't do this gig or something. I was like, whatever. And the guy goes, Nardini! And I'm like, hey, what up? And I recognized him. I knew him. And then this guy that screams my name out reaches underneath the bar. The bartender reaches underneath the bar and pulls out a gun. He picks it up real slow, like cocks it back. And this kid's behind me going, dude! And he slowly points it to me. And right as he gets about here, he pulls the trigger and all these pink bubbles come out. And he shot me with a bubble gun right as I'm walking into the bar. And this guy behind me was like he had never... That was the whole key to it, was being with someone that didn't see how beautiful that was in wonderment over the whole moment. But I don't know if you guys know this, but then I called Bon Jovi and I told him, I said, shot in the heart and you're to blame. You give bubble guns a bad name. Mm-hmm. Do you love that one? Not as much as I do. Hey, let's play a song. What am I thinking about here? Oh my heavens. I got a good one for you. I think you all remember this one. I've done this before, but I haven't done it like this. I brought out this guitar here. It's a Martin. It's a Mexican Martin, and I believe you would call it a parlor guitar, because you would sit in the parlor with your lady friends and just play little etudes on it. Etude. But it was given to me by Jay Flores, who was the original road manager of the House Rockers, the original band, with Jimmy King, Gary Guitar Slim Scalise, rock and roll people. Jimmy King, dude. You hear me? Slim, Guitar Slim. Men. But Jay was their road manager and a wonderful cat. And he laid this guitar on me, and he would not let me give it back to him. And I took that as a wonderful show of love from a wonderful friend. How you doing? Hey. Are you ready? Ready, Freddy? To go uptown and rock and roll? Are you ready? Ready, Freddy? Jimmy, what are you waiting for? She got you look down right and it's out of sight, out of control, out of control. Are you ready? Ready, Freddy? To go uptown and see your baby. She your steady, steady Freddy. Brother, I don't mean maybe. She girl's looking alright and it's out of sight, out of control. When you get into the backseat, lip service and you're moving on down the road. Pulling to a side street, Give her a header. Gotta get it up. You gotta go, man, go. Go! Are you ready? Ready, ready to go uptown and rock and roll. Are you ready? Ready, ready. Get up, get out of that door. She got you look down right. It's out of sight, out of control. Your girl's looking alright and it's out of sight, out of control. Out of control. Out of control. Out of control. Hey. Ready, set, go, man, go. 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 Go, man, go. Go, man, go. Hey, hey. How you doing? Hello, Frederick. Fredericks. Remember, that's where you go. That's where you go to buy fancy under things. Mm-hmm. Ready, Freddy, man. I just thought of something. Crazy shit that happens at gigs. Back in the days of the Tigers, we would get these gigs no one else wanted to do. They'd be in upstate New York, Hamburg, New York. I mean, who in the hell wants to go to Hamburg, New York? You know what I'm saying? They'd be in a town in West Virginia, somewhere out in the farmlands of Ohio. So we get this gig at a bowling alley down in West Virginia. I think it's by Clarksburg. And we're playing with the Tigers. And there was the band, and then we had three roadies, at least two roadies. We had Brother Ron and Little Ricky was Brother Ron's assistant. And he was like a 17, 18-year-old kid, real pretty young boy. So anyway, we're playing at this bowling alley with the Tigers. And being what the Tigers were and what West Virginia was, you know, it was... The women at the gig loved us. The guys at the gig wanted to beat the shit out of us. The guys hated us. The women loved us. Fun, right? So at the end of the gig, as we're packing up, somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, man, there's something going on." So some of these guys, they want to beat Ricky's ass. 17-year-old kid, right? They want to beat his ass. I'm like, what did he do? He said, he didn't do nothing. This woman down there started hitting on Ricky, and her boyfriend caught her hitting on Ricky, and now he wants to beat Ricky's ass. So we're like, I say, hey, let's just pack up, get in the truck, let's get the hell out of here before anything bad happens. So we're out in the parking lot, getting ready to leave, and about, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but I know there was like 10 people or something, all came around and stood around little Ricky. All these young guys, and they're like, you know, and they're screaming, "You come down here, you think you're city slickers, you know, you're gonna think you're having your way with our women and all this stuff," screaming all this stuff. And Ricky's over there like a 17-year-old kid, just a nice boy. And so Nason, and everybody's kind of watching this. So Nason goes over and like puts his arm around Ricky and says, "Ain't nobody touching this kid here." And then the toughest of the guys come up and gets in Nason's face. And I forget what he said. I can't remember. Whitey would probably remember. And he said something. And when he did it, Nason like made sure everybody could see it. And he goes, and he spits right in the guy's face. And as soon as he spit in his face, everybody just like, it was like something, time stopped. And everything froze. And all that was there was the spit rolling down this guy's face. And as soon as Nason did it, it took all, and also at the same time, Gunn and Shook came over and stood behind Nace with their pumped up bodies. They pumped it up. And as soon as that happened, the whole thing defused, because when Nason spit in his face, it was just like such a balls move, and such a manful move in a way, that the fight was over before it started. That was rock and roll. Of course, me, I was just watching on the sidelines because I was never much of a man. I'm being honest. Why should I hide it? Because if I try to hide it, someone would call me out on it. And I could probably get pretty well embarrassed. Think about it. How about that? Ready, Freddy, right? You know, last week we talked about, and the week before, we talked about something that always needs talked about. And it's something like words to songs. You know, I've written them all, Ready, Freddy. You know, you write it in 20 minutes. And then I've written them where, you know, it takes 4 hours to write 4 lines. And months. But when you're writing songs, you know, you can make up your own rules. And you can create things, you know, scenarios that you want to create. This particular number here, I never cut it for myself. But I did cut it once with Sherry Richards singing it. And we did like a real kind of esoteric public radio version of it. And man, it was cool. It was real dark and had a lot of emotion in it. And Sherry sang the crap out of it. And it's a song called The Blues Come Blowing In. Really good job when she did it. But anyway, when I wrote the song, I used a trick. And the trick is this. What I did was, there's 2 main characters in the song. So when I'm writing the lyrics, one character is named somebody, and the other character is named somebody. So anytime the word somebody is being used, it's either of the 2 main characters of the song. And anytime someone isn't one of those 2 characters. So that's the word fun I had with this, making this piece of music interesting. And once again, this was one of those songs where you're thinking about there could be a movie made of this. And it's very short, very simple. But once again, when you're writing lyrics to songs, you say the most with the least. The least amount of words, the most meaning. Least amount of words, most meaning. You say that over again to yourself. Least amount of words, most meaning. And that can lead to writing things that are abstract and not that definitely defined. But once you put the music to it and the melody, it then all bets are off. If you did a good job in wording it out. So let's word this out and see if you follow it. My friend James Dealey out in L.A. always tells me I got to cut this song. And I'd love to cut it. Larry blowing some tenor saxophone. Me over there bending some strings with my old arthritic claws. Some soulful beats. The drummers, you know, the drums in this uses 16th notes on a hi-hat in the ultimate arrangement. Ain't nothing like some 16th notes on a hi-hat. That's from back in the old days. Fatback. They would do things like that. You got to have some light touch, and you got to be a mean and nasty person. Play 16th notes on some hi-hat. Okay, let's do it. It's called The Blues Come Blowing In. I got a bad feeling. Somebody's going to cry. Somebody cheated. Somebody lied. Then someone told somebody what somebody did. Somebody hurt somebody, and the blues come blowing in. I got a bad, bad feeling. The hurt is going to last. Somebody's got issues. Somebody can't get past. Then somebody shot somebody. Now somebody's dead. Somebody got arrested, and the blues come blowing in. I got a bad, bad feeling. Somebody's going to fry. Someone reads a verdict. Now someone's fixing to die. Now someone's serving somebody's last dinner. Somebody's checking out. The blues come blowing in. I got a bad, bad feeling. Ain't nobody left to cry. Somebody was murdered and somebody fried. Now someone's burying somebody and somebody chin to chin. The tombstone says somebody hurt somebody and the blues come blowing in. Wait a minute. I'm going to shoot you with a bubble gun. Oh, he did it. The blues come blowing in. It's a movie. A couple. Somebody cheats on somebody. Someone else, a third party, tells the other one who was cheated upon that the cheater did the cheating. Then there's someone that got cheated upon shoots and kills the person that did the cheating. Now that person gets arrested, tried, convicted, and then in the last verse, the coup de grace. I don't even know what that means. I just said it because it was right there on my lips. My goddamn lips! Coup de grace. Someone's burying someone chin to chin. In other words, for eternity, these two sons of bitches are looking at each other's face just like this. Now that's stock and dark. And the word I love to use most of all, manful. Blues come blowing in. Let's do another song. This one here, I might have done it before, but I'm going to always want to do it because it's about a Pittsburgh hero, someone whose memory, as a city, we need to keep alive. I don't know how else to say it. Some music people, I think Miles Davis said it like this. He says, everybody can play the note, but 98% of that note is the MF for who's playing it. And that's why I think this is important. Because when you make music, or when you do art, you do it, and you do it. And you don't know when or you don't know how, but somehow, for certain people, who they are becomes even more significant than what it is they do. And I don't know if you know what that means, but what it means is some people were bigger and stand taller. Some people are, I don't know what the word is. Some people have a significance about who they are. And when you do this shit, that's the best thing that can happen to you, is to be that person. I'll give you an example of some of those people. The perfect example of it is Johnny effing Cash. Johnny effing Cash was, as great as the music that he made is, on top of that, he's Johnny Cash. And that takes, those songs and what he was swinging, that music he was swinging at you, it makes it even bigger and more manful, because the man doing it is the man that you believe in. So that gives it extra believability. Willie Nelson, when Willie Nelson sings "On the Road Again," he went on the road again. And again, and again, and again. And to write that song and have the significance that it does and the power can only be that way when Willie Nelson is the writer and the singer. And it's the same with Johnny Cash. Certain people, you know, for people that are into the blues, Little Walter was a chess artist, harmonica player, juke. Nobody but you, babe. And all those records that he did. Little Walter was bigger than his amazing and world-changing heart plan because he was a badass. He was kicking people's asses and holding court and being Little Walter in Muddy Waters' world, who in his own right was bigger than the music. So Muddy Waters has more than name recognition and the believability, but Little Walter in his own way was even more mystical than Muddy because he was the dark hero to the dark heroes. You know what I mean? Like, so certain people, you know, and when you think about a woman, who would be a woman that you could do, that could stand up to this? One I could think, Emmylou Harris, Bonnie Raitt. These women are bigger than the great music they make because of who they are as people. And this particular number that I'm going to recite for you now about my friend Warren King is the reason I wrote it is because I want his legacy and who he was and how he was to live on. I want it to be like a story like Paul Bunyan. You know, he was bigger and stronger than everybody else, like Little Abner. You know, those characters, they're cartoon characters, but they're in the reader's minds and in the listener's minds, they're people. And they're bigger and better than us. And isn't that amazing? That exists. So we have those to look up to and to look upon to see what can be gotten out of life. Because a lot of people don't know about taking life and grabbing everything out of it. Everything! The bad and some good. But that being bigger than life it's real. Certain people are. Randy Macho Man Savage, man. Yeah, boy. Remember Randy Macho Man Savage? Tom?
Sure do.
Was he not the bomb? Yeah, man. He had Miss Elizabeth was his girlfriend. You know, people might, you know, they say, oh, he's talking about wrestling. No, wrestling is a microcosm. I don't even know what that word means, but I wanted to say it. Everything in life can all be played out, acted out in the ring. In the rink. I love that, right? Okay. Warren Kingfish King. Monroeville, Pennsylvania. I believe he was born in 1952. I think his dad was like some kind of scientist. I never really knew his parents. I met his sister a couple times, and she was a great girl. Let's talk about WK. Young Buck asked about him. He said, did he stand that tall? Did he drop his pants in Texas as he raised up his Les Paul? Tell me the story about how he blazed the trail. I heard the man they called a kingfish sure knew how to whale. Kingfish down in Memphis drunk up all his dough. Got Elvis's phone number from a couple hoes. All them strippers tell you he gets the wind in his sail. The man they called a kingfish shake the feathers of his tail. Folks still talk about that night on Woodstock Ave. Threw his Les Paul out the window, landed on a Cadillac. Played a killer show that night. I still remember that. The man they called the Kingfish took it all out on his strap. Kingfish in New York City, on the road to ruin. Down in the village doing shit you shouldn't be doing. Strap on a six string like he didn't have a care. Took a bite of the Big Apple. Middle finger in the air. Hail to the kingfish, hail to the man, pissed into the wind just because you can. Hail to the kingfish in his rebel soul and dancing with the devil playing rock and roll. Some say he played like Billy Gibbons. Man, he'd bring to mind Dwayne. How about Johnny Winter hot up on whiskey and cocaine? Y'all talking about the legends of the bending string. The man they call the kingfish, make that guitar sing. Now, there's been some guitar slingers, and they all paid their dues. But ain't a one of them better playing them rockin' blues, and that's the fact of the matter. That ain't no fairy tale. The man they call the kingfish sure knew how to wail. Now, the kingfish, he would tell you, get what you could get. Said, don't worry about me. I got friends I ain't used yet. And that's the way that it was. Straight down to the bone. The man they called a kingfish sure could hold his own. Hail to the kingfish, hail to the man, pissed into the wind, just because you can. How you doing? I think of the fish. I think the last record Fish cut was in this studio right here, playing with Mike Flo and he even named the band J.J. Burner Band. It was the last record he cut, and we did it together. Man, it was something. Hanging with the fish. He'd just strap it on and say, what do you want? Not like a machine, he'd deliver it. Do this, do this, do this. But it bing, bing. Like an animal, he was something. He didn't play none of that happy ass jingle jangle. He played like an animal. Like he was slobbering, spit slobbering coming out. So you could smell him when he was playing great. You'd be standing there in the studio with him. Before you know it, the control room smelled like man meat. It's like, yeah, now we're working. Love that. We are so delighted to be with you. Let's play a song. I've been putzing with this goddamn keyboard. And I suck. I say it every time I do it, but I have to qualify in case someone sees it and doesn't realize that I know I suck. Because I do. But I am going to do what I can to stick it in your ear and hit you with this little little thing called Get Down. Just wrote it in the past 6 months or something like that. Gonna get down to the get down. Everybody gonna be there when we get down to the get down. Bring your style and flair. See you around at the get down. When we get down to the get down, everybody gonna lose their blue. When we get down to the get down, bring your dancing shoes, go get unwind at the get down. Well, get down, anything go but to get down. Everybody knows that to get down ain't no room at to get down. Play it cool, what goes round comes round. At to get down, well, we'll get down to the get down. Everybody gonna lose their blues when we get down to the get down. Bring your dancing shoes, gonna get unwound and to get down. See you around and to get down. Hey, and to get down. Just a little hunk of music, just something. Always something like that is always nice to play some guitar. To get a harp player sitting in, have him come up and blow on something like that, nice and easy. Real cash, you know. When you them nice slow shuffles, you can just you ain't got a lot to make a lot of noise to make those things sound good. In fact, you want to suck it back. Get real light on your feet. Get light on your feet, and you just let that, and then you get that triplet feel. And that's the difference between rock and roll. Is that triplet feel. When you're up there and you're just nice. You're just nice. Hey, I made a promise. I promised you guys something. I promised that I would make an effort tonight to talk about all the dressing rooms I've been thrown out of. I don't know how many dressing rooms you've been thrown out of, but I'd venture to say you have been thrown out as many dressing rooms as this hunk of meat right here. And I'm sure that all the dressing rooms that I mentioned tonight aren't all the dressing rooms that I've been thrown out of. They're just the ones I remember. Let's talk about a few of these. Okay. The first dressing room that I'd like to talk about no, wait a minute. Let me rephrase that. The first dressing room that I'd like to brag about being thrown out of was a dressing room of Clarence Clemens. This was in the middle 80s, and Clarence was doing a tour with a band that he was playing with. It was smoking. It was called Clarence Clemens and the Red Bank Rockers. And he had this white kid playing drums that had played with Stevie Wonder, who was just a beast. He had Harvey Brooks playing bass. Harvey Brooks played bass on all the Simon and Garfunkel records. Harvey Brooks played in a band called the Electric Flag. He was like the Columbia, played a lot with on Dylan's recordings. He was like the Columbia go-to bass player in the city in the 60s. And a really gentleman guy, and we ended up hanging out with him. No, we ended up bothering him and hoping that he would have breakfast with us and tell us stories. Because we were interested, because we were rock and roll people. And he also had this singer in the band, black cat out of Asbury, called J.T. Bowen, who is still alive to this day. And it's just a soulful man. Wonderful singer. He had a guitar player too that was actually really good, but I can't. And he was connected to something, but I don't remember it. But anyway, so we're doing this tour with him. I guess it was probably like 12 dates or 15 dates, like they would be at the time. And you go from one rotten, stinking, thankless gig to the next. But for us, they weren't rotten, they weren't stinking, and they weren't thankless. They were the very staff of life. Because we were playing with a band that had some cats in it that had touched high-level music. And to us, cats that touched high-level music and made high-level music, well, those were our saints. That was St. Peter and St. Thomas, and because that's who we ended up being as people. So anyway, we're playing at this date, and I think I think it was in like Scranton, on the eastern side of Pennsylvania, but I'm not sure what city it was in. But Clarence had just gotten married to this European wife. She was a bit, can I say, highfalutin? And we were, our dressing room, I think, was like, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing. It was like a train car, like a caboose of a train, and they put us in there, and that was the dressing room. And anyway, we were smoking reefer, and then it came to pass. Clarence's new wife came in, and y'all got to go. We can't be associated with that type of behavior. You got to leave. You're out of here. So they threw us out of the dressing room that night. We weren't mad. You know what we were? Proud. Proud. Getting thrown out of a dressing room isn't anything to be ashamed of. How about this one? Playing at a show for the Evil Empire. You know who the Evil Empire is? Radio station in this town that has not acknowledged my existence for the past 25 years. Their problem, not mine. We were doing a show at the Syrian Mosque. All kind of bands on it. All the Pittsburgh folks. A lot of the sniveling minions of the Evil Empire. Who aren't on my party list. They're not. They're just not. So anyway. We had done these for a few years, no big deal, you know. But this was the mosque, so it was fun. Oh, and this was a night too that was so great. The Granati brothers, who were fantastic, were on the show with us, and Nason would always break their balls. And in the back of backstage at the Syrian Mosque, there was this beautiful stairs that would go up, and for different floors where different dressing rooms would be on. And on the staircase, there was like a little something for the fire, where you could open it up and plug a hose to it for, like a fire pipe. And it came into it like on a wall, but it was only like this tall off the ground. And it was like a little door and had a little knob on it, and that's where the fire equipment was. And Nason saw that, and over top of it, he wrote a real official sign, and it said, "Granati Brothers Dressing Room," and it was only this tall. Oh, fantastic. They saw that shit. They loved it more than life itself. Them little monkeys. They knew how fantastic it was. So anyway, I'm not thinking of it. And I didn't even think of it, but somehow on this show, that was always normally just Pittsburgh cats. Somehow, the Evil Empire decided to add somebody who they thought was had a significance at the time, and put him on this show with all the Pittsburgh people. And the guy that they put on the show was a queen of a man named Billy Squire. And so I'm not even thinking that he's realizing he's on the show or anything. So I'm just like going up the stairs, and I guess I walked past all the dressing rooms that were designated for whoever and whoever. And when I got to the room, I walked into this. It was a real big room, like a giant open room, and there was this like real nice, kind of like artistic couch sitting in there. And sitting on the couch was this guy, Billy Squire, and he was kind of like sitting on the end of it, and like his legs were let out across it, and like he was like this, sitting on the couch, and there was no one in there. And I could walk. I'm like, "Hey, what up? What are you doing here?" He says to me. He says, "Well, I'm on the show. I'm Norman." And he's like, "You're not allowed in here." And it was this guy, Billy Squire, who I wasn't real familiar with. And I was like, "Well, I'm on the show. I'm working it." And then his manager came out from behind a little curtain and said, "You have to leave this room right now. This is Billy's. You have to leave this room." And they threw me out of that dressing room. And I was never, ever more glad to be thrown out of a dressing room than to be thrown out of that one. I just thought, you little monkey. Talk to me that way. Come to my time. cast me out before you even take a sniff to see what I'm smoking? Do you know what I mean? Hey, you might have wanted me to stay. And no, you didn't. You little creep. Let's talk about a couple guys that have thrown me out of several dressing rooms. Guy from Jersey who's a wonderful love-hate kind of guy. Southside Johnny Lyons. He threw me out of one dressing room for smoking reefer. And I think that was at the Fast Lane in Asbury. But we always smoked reefer at the dressing rooms at the Fast Lane. It was kind of like our home club. But we weren't from there. And we weren't Southside Johnny, so he had the club. So we were thrown out of that one. But then again, he threw me out of another one. I think it was in Youngstown. Because when we were hanging backstage, I was talking to him about something. And I told him I was a friend of his, one of his ex-wives. And since that time, I found out she was his first ex-wife. And she was married, at the time, she was married to another buddy of mine, a wonderful drummer named Pete Barnett. And I mentioned that I knew her. And the reason I mentioned it was because Betty was from West Virginia. And my old lady is from West Virginia. So I was saying, yeah, I'm a friend of your ex-wife's. And, she's from West Virginia like my old lady's from West Virginia. And as soon as I mentioned it, get the hell out of here. I want him out of here. And he threw me out of the dressing room for that. For knowing his ex-wife. But I have to say, every time Southside Johnny's thrown me out of a dressing room, and there might be another time or two, but every time he's thrown me out of a dressing room, he was smiling when he did it. That's pro. How about this time? This is a different story. I'm playing at Jurgles out in the North Hills, opening for Southside Johnny. And the stage is here, and behind and up a floor is the dressing room. And Southside they were all in the dressing room up there. And we're on stage, and I'm in between songs, I say to the audience, hey guys, we're really excited to be here tonight with some friends of ours and a band we're big fans of, Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. And as soon as I said it, the dressing room door slammed open, and he came running out, and he had a newspaper in his hand, and he started ripping the newspaper up and throwing it at me while I was on stage. And he was just swearing at me and just saying all this rotten shit. Get off the goddamn stage! You ain't nobody! You're shit! And once again, the whole time he was doing it, he had the biggest smile on his face. That's pro. There's another guy that has thrown me out of more than one dressing room. And I'm trying to think of the dressing rooms he's thrown me out of. But I've also, I have to say this. I've played with Southside Johnny many times and not been thrown out of dressing rooms. And I've played with this guy and not been thrown out of dressing rooms. But I know he threw me out at least two. And the guy I'm talking about is Robin Trower. The Day of the Eagle, Bridge of Sighs. Remember when that record came out? When that record, you don't remember it? It was the 70s. Yep. And it kind of solidified in its own weird way. I don't know how it did it, but it kind of solidified who Jimi Hendrix was and what Jimi Hendrix did. And I don't know how it did. I mean, maybe it didn't do that in everybody's mind, but it did it in my mind. And because what he did was he just took this simple sound. It's kind of like this. When they made the record, they set the sound of the drums, they set the sound of the guitars, they set the sound of the bass, and the tone of all the music, and they used the exact same sounds on every instrument for the whole album. And it was that drippy, dreary, droning, open string, affected, which Jimi Hendrix used a bit. But Jimi Hendrix did a lot of different things. Jimi Hendrix didn't make a record where it was one sound for the whole album. And Robin Trower kind of did that and said, "This is what we sound like," and that was kind of cool. And he had that really good bass player singer. But yeah, he's thrown me out of and it was always for smoking reefer. Was Robin Trower for throwing me out? I'm not sure if one was graffiti. It might have been graffiti here in Pittsburgh. I remember the last time I played him, I didn't get thrown out. Was at the Palace Theater up in Greensburg, PA. How about this? In the 70s, we were playing at the Electric Ballroom, and I believe it was 1975. And the Electric Ballroom was like this. It was called Alex Cooley's Electric Ballroom. It was in Atlanta. And Atlanta was hot at the time, man. It was just rocking time. Oh, and a funny story on this. While we were doing our gig there, we were opening for this band from Scotland. But while we were there, I don't know how it worked out, but somebody said, "Hey, there was a club right around the corner from Alex Cooley's Electric Ballroom. It was called, I can't remember what it was called. I can't remember. But he said, there's this band playing there that you got to see." And so we snuck over and watched this band on stage. And the band was loud as can be. And they had 3 guitar players. And they weren't, I didn't think they were great. But it was the Outlaws before and right when they got their record deal signed, and you could tell they all could play, but it wasn't. I don't know whether it was me not being ready to hear that, or the way they were at that moment in their career, where it wasn't like quite hit me like you would have wanted it to. But anyway, we saw the Outlaws before they had their record deal and all. But anyway, at the end of our gig at this Alex Cooley's Ballroom, we opened a show for this really amazingly cool guy. I always talk about rock and roll people. This guy was a rock and roll person. His name was Alex Harvey, and he had a band called the Sensational Alex Harvey Band. And he had them guys in the band that would wear like stretch pants, and then they would wear a codpiece, like in the movie Clockwork Orange, and it was. And then we were like, one guy wore makeup like a clown. I think it was a guitar player, but meanwhile these cats was a good band, and I think it was either the keyboard player. I think it was the keyboard player. He always wore pajamas and a bathrobe and slippers, and it was like just what they did, and really cool act. And Alex Harvey was older than the rest of us. I was still in my 20s, so. And he was probably at the time in his 40s, so he might as well have been 70 at the time to me, because when you're in your 20s, somebody that's 40, you're like, Christ, it's all over for him. Well, anyway, that's what we were taught to believe in those days. But anyway, at the end of the gig, we were in the dressing room, and Alex Harvey's manager came and asked us to leave. We weren't thrown out of that dressing room; we were asked to leave. There's a huge difference. And the reason he asked us to leave was because he wanted to have a private meeting with his band and Alex. And us being young, really inexperienced little knuckleheads, listened in at the door and peeked in to see what was going on behind that door. Why did they have to have a private meeting? And what we heard and found out was the manager was saying to Alex Harvey, "You're getting all bombed out. You're all juiced up. You're a mess. You're drunk all the time. And for the guys and for me, we're trying to get this thing started." And he was trying to explain to Alex Harvey, who was older, or even older than the manager. He was trying to explain to Alex, that you can't be like this. And Alex just was saying, like, "Look, dude, this is how I am. This is it. I don't know what you think or what you guys think, because what you guys all think, it doesn't matter, because this is who I am and this is who I'm going to be." And it was just cool to see that acted out. And then as years went on, and not all that many years, Alex Harvey died young. and he had this great life, and was doing something. Was an innovator on stage. He was doing things that other people weren't doing, and he wasn't getting a ton of recognition for it, but he was in the game, and he was very cool. And then, like he said, this is who I am. This is however it plays out. That's what's going to happen. And he didn't get to live that long, but I got the chance. We all did got a chance to rub up against him and see somebody that just went pissed into the wind, like Warren King, and said, "Hey, I'm a rock and roll person. We're going to play it out, and what happens is going to happen." The Sensational Alex Harvey Band was the name of the act.
Amos Moses was a Cajun. Alex Harvey covered that Jerry Reed song.
Wow.
Amos Moses.
Wow.
About the kid.
I didn't hear that song.
The kid who hunted alligators for a living. Yeah.
Right, right.
That was one of the Dogs' big covers.
Jerry Reed?
Yep. And Sensational Alex Harvey Band.
Wow.
Version of it.
You know, my production partner and engineer, Bryce Foster, and drummer in the studio, who lives in Nashville now, has been telling me in the past year or so that he's been hanging out with and doing some dates with Jerry Reed's grandson, I believe, who's in his early 30s, and he's a drummer and a bass player and a touring cat, and he said he's a great guy, and he goes out with that woman I mentioned.
Emmylou Harris.
He goes out with Emmylou. And I'm not sure whether he plays bass or drums with her. But I forget what his name is. But yeah, Jerry Reed was an amazing guitar player. Very few people he was one of these. You know, his right hand, it was all the right hand action, baby. Which like Clarence White, some of those. Well, Clarence White had it all, but Jerry Reed had a right hand that was just like Chet Atkins, you know, those cats. You know, it's like you almost had to study classical to train your fingers to be that. I try to finger pick, and I suck, but I do it. And I can fake my way through it and get something out of it. Here's another one. This was in, I think, 1970. It might have been in January of 1979. I believe. I'm not sure. I got a call to play at we were with the Diamonds. And we got a call to play in Philadelphia at a way cool club called the Hot Club. And it was opening the show for a band that was coming to America for the first time from England. And the name of the band was XTC. It was like a little 4-piece English dudes, kind of, you know how like English dudes can be. They think they're smarter than you. They think, in their own way, they think rock and roll was invented in England. And you know what? And I don't want to get down on nobody too bad, because England has an amazing rock and roll history. I don't want to question that. But anyway, and I was with the Diamonds, and I remember it was so cold. And we didn't have nowhere to sleep. We ended up sleeping. I think we got there to the day of the gig. It was like New Year's Day or something. It was like -5 degrees, and it was freezing in the club. And we slept on the stage, on the floor of the stage. And we all had them big long overcoats like I used to wear with the Undercover Lover. You know, we all were dressed like that because it was so freezing out. And we all slept on the stage. So we're sleeping on the stage the day of the gig. And then all of a sudden the band from England shows up and they want to do their sound check and stuff. So I remember they were just looking at us like we were animals before the show. And then after they saw us play, they were really looking at us like we were animals, which was the way we would have wanted it, if you know what I'm saying. But we never even got to be in the dressing room in that particular gig. But what I remember happening is, a month or so later, there was a writer from Melody Maker, the English magazine, And he was there with them to document their tour and to write about it. And I got the article in Melody Maker, and I saw it, and it this writer talking about the Diamonds, and he was saying that we were like hobos, and that we were sleeping on the floor, and we were all dirty, and we smelled, and we had our long coats on, and we didn't know how to dress, and you know, it was, and the music that we played was just like this, the most angry and scary thing, and it was just great to see, because the Diamonds was so delicious and so dangerous, you know. But these people were trying to go for this intellectual thing and this art rock thing, and they just didn't feel what we were up to and what we were about. But it was great to see the snooty English dismissing us as less than human. Love that with all my heart. I have a couple other little things I'd like to tell you about. And both of them involve Warren King. Once again, we didn't get thrown out of this dressing room, but we should have. We were playing in Boston. We were on tour with the Radiators out of New Orleans. Really cool band. And we did a mess of shows with them, a couple weeks, like from Chicago up to Boston, then down through the East Coast and all that. And we were doing this show in Boston, and Warren got all effed up. And we were like in this one big room, and they just had a couple little dividers, like paper dividers, between our room and the dressing room. And Warren got all effed up, and he just starts talking about how he can't stand the Radiators, how their guitar players are punks, and how he'd like to beat their asses, and their whole band was candy ass, and they wasn't shit. And he's talking this shit the whole night between the dressing rooms, and they could hear every word he was saying. And I'm trying to get him to calm, and he was just gone. But it was kind of fantastic to be a part of it. Meanwhile, I'm trying to like tamp it all down and keep it civil. But Warren was just on one of those rolls. Here's another Warren. This was in the 70s, and we were in the Diamonds, and we were playing at a sports arena in Toledo, Ohio, opening for Frank Zappa. And this is before things backstage were real developed and controlling, and you know the way things are today. It's like some corporation buys the tour and runs the whole backstage and every ticket and every backstage pass. This is way before all that happened. It's in the 70s. So what happens is the people that were bringing the food in, the caterers, brought in the food, and we're looking for Frank Zappa's dressing room. And Warren King said, "Follow me." And he brought them to our dressing room. And they put all of Frank Zappa's food in our dressing room, and we just started eating it. We were young and idiots. Truly idiots. And we got in a lot of trouble for that. And then at the end of the gig, we're like out in the truck or wherever waiting to go. And in this like sports arena kind of a thing. I don't know what team they have up there. It must have been some kind of minor league hockey team or something. We were in the dressing room where we had stolen all the food and just ravaged it all. Warren's standing in this room right in front of the bathroom taking a piss in a drain pipe. And when he's doing it, the caretaker of the backstage comes in and sees him pissing into this drain pipe instead of in the bathroom, and goes insane and chases him out the building. And we weren't thrown out of that dressing room. We were thrown out of that building and that town. And they says, "You'll never play Toledo again." It's kind of fantastic. WK. Frank Zappa, right? It was his dressing room. Let's play a song. See what we got. Is there anybody out there that misses the Starlight Lounge as much as I do? Is there anybody out there that thinks that at 7 o'clock your pierogies are ready, your French fries are ready, maybe Norman and Harry will come over and eat off your plate, I did what I could to keep it real. I tried and I tried to close the deal, but you wouldn't commit. I must admit, I got tired of trying, so you go your way, I go mine. I gave you my heart, it wasn't enough. You wanted my soul, I called you bluff. There ain't no doubt this ain't working out. I'm sure that you'll do fine when you go your way, I go mine. Then somebody says, parting is such sweet sorrow. I've got a feeling we'll both feel better after tomorrow. Oh. Then somebody says parting is such sweet sorrow. I've got a feeling we'll both feel better after tomorrow. You played the part as well as you could, but the truth of it is you never understood. Wanted it all, felt you withdraw. I'll be sure and drop you a line when you go your way, I go mine. When you go your way, yeah, I go mine. When you go your way, when you go your way, I'll go mine. When you go your way, I'll go mine. How you doing? You know, I've had that song sung by the wonderful Mark Stutzo on his first solo record. Stutzo cut it. I also had it done. Whitey Cooper used to sing it on gigs, and still does when we're in gig mode. And you know who else sang it? Sang the living crap out of it. Sherry Richards. I don't know if you guys know this, but Sherry Richards likes hairy bottoms. She thinks that one's funny. We'll do some laughing over that one. I don't know if you guys have ever done any dates with Sherry. She's fun to work with because she gets up and she'll put the meat on the floor. Now, you want to play with people that'll put the meat on the floor. In other words, they'll bring some heat to the stage. When you play with Sherry, she's coming out, she's ready to, what we call throw. She's not standing, sit and be nice and gentle, being nice. No, she's like, come on! Boom! A little physicality. Start swinging that meat around. Oh! I ain't got much meat to swing, but I swing what I got. I always did. Let's try this. I've probably done this before, but I think we might have some fun with it. I love this time. And I remember when I was a little kid, I remember having a party line You know what a party line is? My lovely assistant Tom remembers what a party line is. A party line is when everybody on your street or everybody in your party is connected to the same phone line. And like, so you can use the phone, but only when someone that isn't in that party, like we lived on Shady Avenue in Cheswick, and our side of Shady Avenue was all them houses were on that same, I don't know, there's 10, 15 houses. We all were on the same phone line. So when you made phone calls, people could pick up. It's called a party line. I mean, I was just a little kid. I don't remember it all that well, but I remember it. But, and they used to have, before just numbers, it was like Brandywine 271, Orchard 222. Orchard 22501. I think that was my Aunt Rita's phone number. Ours was Brandywine 2712842. Whatever, something like that. But you'd always say a word, and then you would go into the number thing, which was very cool. And here's me talking about that, and I'm trying to hang on to that because I still never owned a cell phone. I don't want one in my office. I don't want one in my coat, in my shirt. My hat, my coat. I don't know if you guys heard, I went Muslim last week. You know, changed religions. I became a Muslim. I had to change my name. You from now on, you have to call me my hat, my coat. It's my Muslim name. I got that from this wonderful, wonderful friend of mine from New Jersey, Frankie Ravisheur. One of the most amazing, crazy people that ever walked the planet Earth. If we do an X-rated show where you can tell stories that you can't tell, a few of his stories will be in there. You could get across town if you call a jet name. Take the back way, but that could get tricky. Don't get on the parkway around breakfast or supper. Route 28, bumper to bumper. You're going to have to tunnel your way through the 412. This here's a sports town, and we got the Bucks. The Pens, the Panthers, and the Steelers don't suck. We'll kick everybody's ass, and we don't need a reason. Every day we thank God. Wayne and Cleveland. Never bit up on a we could chew in the 412. In the city of champs, we drink Iron City beer. We ain't in West Virginia, but you can see it from here. I got a lot of memories running around my head. Things that Bill and Patty Burns and Sophie said. Now we the home of Mr. Rogers and Chili Billy. Gonna shout chicken on the hill with Willie. We got quite a crew in the 412. I've been all around the world, now I know I want to be. Living a dream here in Pennsylvania. Well, I was raised up and you can find my kin. Everybody's always calling everybody ends. 3 rivers running through Mount Washington view. Folks like me and you. That's the 411 on the 412. 412, 412, 412, 412. Well, pretty good, right? I'm starting to slobber at the end. Now we got a show. You know, what I tell you before, it ain't a gig until I can smell myself. Yeah. Smells like an old guinea right there. Little pasta basil, little onion. Little mustard. My dad taught me how to eat mustard. My dad get all drunk. He wanted to put some mustard on a tomato. He couldn't figure out how to get the mustard out of the jar onto the tomato. He was too drunk to figure it out. So first he tried to pour the mustard out. If it wasn't enough in there to come out like that, he'd take the tomato and he'd stuff it in the jar. And when he stuffed it in the jar, it would explode and go all over the kitchen. And like little seeds stick to the wall and all that crap. And I just thought that was normal. Or he'd like take the steak. He said, how do I get the mustard on a steak? He couldn't figure it out, so he'd take the steak and stuff it in the mustard jar. And then he'd just pull it out and just start eating it like that. I thought that was normal. And for us, it was as normal as you can imagine because it happened every day. It wasn't like this happened once a week. Was the day. When my dad got home from work, he would be tuned up. And he was phenomenal. Idolized him. And when he would go to the Steeler games, he would go with all his other old Dago buddies. And they would be real cold down there. Pitt Stadium up on a hill. Cardiac, what do they call it? Cardiac hill or something like that. Because it was top. By the time you walked there, you had your heart attack. So they would go up there and all these old Dagos. And one of the Dagos would have a skin bag. And in that skin bag, he would have some Dago red wine. And my dad said he was so proficient, so excellent with the skin bag, that he could shoot a shot of ween, couple 3 seats, 2 rows down, right into your mouth, and you wouldn't miss a drop. He says early in the game, he said he'd like it be a little sloppy, you could make a little spill. He says, but after he got a belly full, he says he didn't miss a shot. He says, you'd be down there and say, hit me! He said this old Dago go like this. He says the goddamn shell would come right across and hit you right in the mouth. You could close your eyes. That's talent. My old man would brag about that. We were raised on Steeler football. We were raised. I know why Pittsburgh is like it is. You know, one time I was working down in Nashville, and this guy comes up to me. I was working for him, it's his club. He says to me, dude, you're a ringer. He says, you're a ringer. He says, I don't make many like you. You're a freak. You were born to do this shit. I says, I was. And he says, welcome to Nashville. A music town with a sports problem. And I says, well, I'm from Pittsburgh. A sports town with a music problem. We got a big laugh out of that. Hunchers, munchers, late for lunchers, and panties in a bunchers. I got a song I want to play for you guys. See what you think of it.
10 minutes to go.
Oh, wow. My lovely, and when I say lovely, I mean Lovely. Assistant Tom just said we have 10 minutes to freak. You know, time goes so fast when you're in a cheap hotel room, half a pack of Camels, couple of Iron Cities, little quarter ounce of Green Reef. Time goes so fast when you're having that kind of fun. It'll just snap your girdle. Ooh, and leave a little pink spot on your ass cake. Did you ever write a song that you're ashamed of? You might have, right? Well, I've written quite a few. There's that one I wrote sitting on the toilet back in Asbury Park. You know the one I'm talking about. Oh, you late night lifers. You've heard me play it. I usually don't play it till about 1:30 in the morning because I wait for all the nice people to go home. Then when all that's left is my people, then I bring out songs that ain't right, that I shouldn't have written, that I would never play for my mother. And if someone told my mother I wrote that, I would deny it. I'd say, Mom, are you kidding me? I can't write a song. I wouldn't have written that if I had. I would never admit it to her. But this song, I'm very embarrassed about being associated with it. When I play this song, my shamometer, that's how I measure my shame, with a shamometer. My shamometer, through the roof, red all the way up, all the way to the top, pulsating, boom, boom, shame, 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 shame. And you know why I have shame? Because my mother raised me right. The fact that I didn't take to the raising the way she would have liked, that's on me. But when I think about it, you know what? I say that shit. But it ain't true. Because I know this. As much as my mother tried so hard to make me righteous, I know that she was proud that I was a black sheep. She was proud that I shot my mouth off. She was proud that I dragged my dago ass up on a stage across the boards, prancing around like a little monkey, looking at the girl saying, "Hello, doll. How do you like me now?" Yeah. She was proud of it. And I know that because when she would talk about Frank Sinatra, she would talk about how he was always in trouble and he was a badass. And as much as she loved righteousness, she knew that a man had the right to be a little, "Get over here, you little monkey." I wrote this song. I have total embarrassment about writing it. But if you hear it and you know anybody that would like to sing it, I'll suit it up right for them. I'll put it on them. I'll shorten it up in the crotch, shorten it up in the ankle, and I think they might look good walking down the street singing a number just like this. You ready? Ain't that some shit when the money runs out and your mortgage is due and you ain't got the amount? Ain't that a drag? You got to admit that you're tired to be fit. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit when your old lady's mad 'cause you done something you should not have had? Ain't that a drag? She got you down in the pits and you can't get that love light lit. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit when your friend let you down? Spread your business all over town. Ain't that a drag? For their own damn benefit. Give you a blindside hit. Ain't that some shit? We're gonna sing it here. Help me. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? Filled up a bag from a big old pile of it, up to the nipple of the tit. Ain't that some shit? How do you like it so far? I didn't think so. Ain't that some shit when you come to realize what them politicians tell you ain't nothing but life? Ain't that a drag? You know you'd like to commit, but you just be wasting your spit. Ain't that some shit? How about this here? Ain't that some shit when you give all you got and what you got ain't a lot? Ain't that a drag? You used up all your wits and now you can't afford to quit. Ain't that some shit? Here's my favorite verse. Ain't that some shit when the river dries up and you're thirsty as hell but you can't fill your cup? Ain't that a drag? All you need is a sip and you're just licking your lips. Ain't that some shit? Sing it with me. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? Filled up a bag from a big old pile of it, up to the nipple of the tit. You can't afford to quit. Take a blindside hit. Ain't that some shit? Hey, hey. Delicious. Ain't that some shit? Pretty good stuff, huh? Hey, over here. We got some pretty good stuff. Hey, we want to thank you for tuning in with us. And I should mention this because I always like to mention my friend Larry G, Pittsburgh Larry out of New York City. He always says to say, download this music, whole LPs or single tracks, and you can get a whole LP for under $10. $10. You kidding me? On Amazon or iTunes. Amazon, iTunes. And the names of the LPs that we have available are Notorious, Bonafide, Redemption, It's Alive, Breakdown, and This Old Train. And I want to ask you one question. This album here, we don't have it available. It's called Eaten Alive. It came out in 1981, but it's been up there since we've been doing these shows. And I was wondering if you guys think it would be a good idea for us to put that out on CD. Not a million copies, but just to get it around there because it's a very unique recording. And it's a part of my, history. And it's a pretty cool record. So if anybody thinks that's a good idea, let us know. I want to thank my lovely assistant, Tom, for being what? Lovely! You know, I used to have a friend named John Lovely. He used to live down in Oakland. And you know what he would do? I'd say, what'd you do last night? He'd go, he says, roamed around and lurked about. That's what he did. And his name was John Lovely. And he was named John Lovely because he had a punk rock band called The Young Lovelies. Right? And it was one of them bands where you could wear a diaper and it kind of fit. I like those kind of bands. It's one that, remember when the Funkadelic, they had that one guy that wore the diaper? I think he might still be with him. Whenever you can go on stage wearing an effing diaper, it's a win-win, right? You are rock and roll at that moment in time. Hey guys, are we ready, Tom?
We're done.
Oh,
I mean, we haven't done.
we're cooked.
We're cooked.
Good.
We're at 2 hours.
Hi, Nance. I'm not supposed to touch you. Good. Hi, Paul. I want to see your shoes so I can tell Harry about them because he knows. You know how to.
My high-heel gym shoes.
Killer, right? Harry would want to lick them. He's a freak, that Harry
He'd
was.
go crazy in my closet.
He would.
I have more shoes and boots than you could even shake a stick at.
I bet you do.
Yep.
And you went out and selected each one just
Oh, definitely.
and enjoyed looking for them. And
I keep all my shoes in a box, and I keep the receipt, just so I have a timeline. Because I'll remember why I bought them, but I won't remember when it was. So that's like a
for what
podcast.
event it was
Yes,
that you.
right.
To be a girl is such a great thing. I mean, I can't imagine.